Here we're looking at the anatomy of an upper endoscopy. The scope is passed through the oropharynx, and we see the airway and the vocal cords. And then we identify the piriform sinus and pass the scope through the upper esophageal sphincter. Now we're in the esophagus, and as we come back, we see this darker area of columnar mucosa, the darker pink. And this is a small inlet patch, so an area of gastric metaplasia seen in the upper esophagus. Now we'll advance the scope further into the esophagus. We insufflate the esophageal lumen with air or carbon dioxide. And as we come into the distal esophagus, we identify the squamo-columnar junction. So here we see the lighter pink is the squamous mucosa lining the esophagus, and then the junction with the columnar mucosa that's seen in the stomach. Sometimes this is called a Z line because it has somewhat of an irregular contour where the squamous lining meets the columnar lining. So now we're at the lower esophageal sphincter. And we see a little bit of contraction of the esophagus. Go through the lower esophageal sphincter into the stomach. And we see the rugal folds in the gastric body. Now the scope is flipped around on itself. We call this retroflexion. The scope is looking back on itself up towards the esophagus. So the area right around the scope is called the gastric cardia, and then to the left of the scope is the gastric fundus. And then we can relax the tip of the scope, and now we're in the forward view again. We see the rugal folds in the gastric body, and now we enter the gastric antrum. So here's the pyloric sphincter, and then the angularis or incisura on the left side of the sphincter. Now we go through the pyloric sphincter into the duodenal bulb, into the back of the duodenal bulb. We go around the duodenal sweep into the second duodenum, and we see the yellow bile here. Now we see the longitudinal fold. That defines the ampulla. So we see the major ampulla here, and with a normal configuration.